Now let's learn working with layers. In the bottom of the layers panel, we have a few icons. The second last icon will create a new layer. The last icon will delete the selected layers. The folder icon will create a new group. Besides that, we have an icon to create an effect layer. Then we also have a mask icon to hide unwanted areas of the layer. Besides that, we have blending options. With this icon, we can create effects like bevel, shadow, glow, and many more to the current layer. The first icon is to link the multiple layers. Let's understand it one by one. Create a new blank layer by pressing Ctrl Shift N keys. You can specify the name from here. Also, you can give a color to identify the similar kind of layers. Opacity will set the layer transparency to a specified percentage. Press OK for now. You also can quickly create blank layers by clicking on the plus button from the bottom of the layers panel. You can create as many layers as supported by your computer memory. By default, it will be named by incremental layer numbers. You can rename it by double-clicking on the layer name. Press and hold the Alt key and click on the plus button to open a new layer dialog box. By default, it will create a new layer above the current selected layer. If you want to create a layer below the current layer, then press and hold the Ctrl key and click on the plus button. Pressing and holding the Ctrl and Alt keys both while creating a new layer will open a new layer dialog box and create a layer below the current layer. You can change the layer color by right-clicking on it and selecting the color name. Remember that whatever changes you make can be applied to the current selected layer or called as active layer only. You can see the active layer name in the title bar if the layers panel is not visible at the time of working. So it's very important to check on which layer you are working. You can set the transparency of other than the background layer from the top side opacity slider. The shortcut to set the transparency is the same as we have seen for the brush tool. Press a single digit number on the keyboard to set the opacity in multiplication of 10. To set the opacity very precisely, you need to type the number you want to set the opacity of the current layer. You might feel some complications here when working with the tools that have their own opacity option. For example, select the brush tool. Photoshop will take preference for the tool to set the opacity from the keyboard. So to set the layer opacity from the keyboard, you need to select any of the tools which do not have an opacity option, like a move tool, marquee tool, lasso tool, or others. You can select or deselect multiple layers by using Shift and Ctrl keys. You can delete the unwanted layers by simply selecting the layers and press trash icon at the bottom. Either drag the selected layers to the trash icon or simply press delete key on the keyboard. Drag a layer to the new layer icon at the bottom of the layers panel. You can see that it has added a copy word to duplicated layer. Every time you duplicate the layer, it will rename it. If you do not want to rename the layer, go to panel options and deselect the third option of adding a copy to copied layers and groups option. This will not rename the layer while duplicating, but then you may get confused between the original layer and duplicated layer while reopening the file several times. So I suggest keeping this option selected. You can rename the layer if you want. You can see the thumbnails before the layer name in the panel. You can change the size of the thumbnails. Go to panel options. You have 3 different sizes of thumbnails to select. None will remove the thumbnails from the layer panel. Press OK for now. You can see that instead of thumbnails, we have small icons describing the layer type. Go to panel options again. Thumbnail content option decides how to show the thumbnail. If you want only the content of the layer to see, then select the layer bounds option. This will set the layer content as a thumbnail. Entire document option will maintain the ratio of the layer content with the document size. You can see the thumbnails are restored. Now let's talk about questions. So how many layers can we have in a single file? It depends on the computer's memory, how many it can support. The second question is coloring the layers necessary? Well, actually not. It's not necessary, but when you are working with lots of layers and multiple kinds of layers, it's very difficult to search for the particular kind of layer. Coloring the layers make it easy to identify the layers visually.